Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some HolyF just break up for you all today. As per usual, I'll be reading you the post, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Cross-posted from r/Am I the asshole? Would I be the asshole? Public. Am I the asshole for wanting to cancel my wedding after my fiance accidentally sold my late dad's guitar? When I was 14, my dad passed away suddenly. The only thing I kept of his was his old Fender guitar. It wasn't worth much money, but to me, it was priceless. He taught me to play on it, and every time I touched those strings, it felt like he was still here. I told everyone in my life, especially my fiance, that this guitar was off limits. Fast forward to last weekend, we're getting married in 3 weeks. My fiance has been on this weird minimalism kick, selling random things on Facebook Marketplace for extra honeymoon cash. I came home from work and noticed my guitar stand was empty. I thought maybe he moved it because we were deep cleaning. Nope, he sold it. When I confronted him, he said he forgot it was sentimental and thought it was just collecting dust. He even bragged that he got $150 for it. I lost it, like ugly crying, shaking, couldn't breathe. He kept saying, "Babe, I'll just buy you another one. You can get the same model online." But it's not the same. My dad's fingerprints were literally worn into the fretboard. You can't buy that back. I immediately asked him to message the buyer to get it back. He refused at first because he didn't want to look stupid. I told him I didn't care if he looked like an idiot. Go get my guitar. When he finally reached out, the buyer said they'd already gifted it to their teenage son, who absolutely loves it, and wouldn't give it back. Since then, my fiance has been sulking, acting like I'm overreacting and ruining the wedding vibe. He told his mom, who already doesn't like me, and now his whole family is texting me to stop punishing him for an honest mistake. I'm not sure I can marry someone who can be this careless with something I've been crystal clear about for years. It's not about the guitar, it's about the fact that he didn't care enough to remember. Am I the asshole for thinking about calling off the wedding? The question OP should be asking is whether or not this guitar is not just worth ending the wedding over, but potentially criminal action and filing a police report, because that's something that you've got to ask yourself. Do you want this guitar back in your life? Because by the sounds of it, your boyfriend sold stolen property that he did not have access or permission to sell, and filing a police report would definitely be an option you have to get your guitar back. No matter what though, I'd say leave him. Even if the guitar didn't have sentimental value, he still took something that wasn't his and sold it for $150. An instrument for that matter. Didn't ask you, didn't consult you, just sold one of your possessions without even talking to you about it. Then factoring in the fact that he somehow conveniently forgot that it was such a sentimental part of your life and something that was that important to you? Yeah, no, this guy can go fuck himself. Like, he just actually doesn't care. Like, did you agree to the minimalism kick? How much of his own stuff has he sold for the minimalism kick that he's currently on right now? And out of all items to go for, why a fucking instrument? Something that's actively used. OP just got a taste of who her potentially future husband might be. Someone who has no respect for her belongings, or her wishes, and can't even be bothered to remember something that's sentimental that her dead father gave to her. And he can't even comprehend why she's upset. Yeah, you should leave, and his entire family is definitely not worth being a part of either. If they're just going to react like this and start hounding you because you're upset that your boyfriend sold your dead father's guitar without even consulting you or asking you about it. Probably lie to them and try to downplay the whole incident to get more people on his side. Cross-posted from r/Am I the asshole? My 37 male boyfriend said he'll just keep his daughter away from me because I said I felt disrespected. Am I being too sensitive, or is this a red flag? Hi Reddit, I'm 27 female, and I've been dating a 37 male for over a year. He has a 5-year-old daughter, and as things have gotten more serious, I've tried to be thoughtful and respectful in how I show up. Not just for him, but in how I connect with his child and family. But something happened recently at a family dinner that really hurt me, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm overreacting or if this is something more serious. We were at a dinner for his mom's birthday. His daughter was sitting in the booth behind me and kept tapping me on the back of the head over and over. It wasn't aggressive, but it was physically repetitive. And I probably let it happen 5 or 6 times and didn't say anything. I didn't want to cause a scene or make her feel bad. She's a kid. Eventually, his mom noticed and said something to him in Spanish, telling him to have her stop. That's when he turned to me and asked, "Do you feel disrespected?" I said, "Yeah, I kind of do." And instead of taking that seriously or stepping in, he immediately said, "Too bad." Then he turned to his daughter and said, "Keep doing it," jokingly. But of course, she's 5. She took that as a green light and kept doing it. What really hurt me wasn't the tapping itself, it was that I communicated how I felt in a calm, honest way. And he made it into a joke. He didn't step in or make me feel protected, and when I brought it up later in private, I tried to be clear about that. I wasn't mad at his daughter, I was disappointed in him. I told him it didn't feel good that I voiced something that made me uncomfortable, and instead of having my back, he brushed it off and turned it into a game. That's when he said something that really shocked me. He told me that if I thought something like that was a big deal, then the only solution is to just keep his daughter away from me going forward. That if I can't handle small things like that, it's only going to get worsened one day. And I'll probably make him choose between me and his kid. He also made a comment that I'd probably only take care of my own kids, as if I'm incapable of caring for someone else's child. To be clear, I have never asked him to choose. I've gotten his daughter small gifts, showed up with warmth and grace, and I've gone out of my way to respect the dynamic between them. But every time I set a boundary, even one as simple as saying, "This felt disrespectful," he makes it seem like I'm the enemy, like I have a problem with her. His go-to response is to remove me from the situation entirely, as if I'm a threat instead of his partner. He's also mentioned that he's never had to balance being a father and being in a relationship at the same time, and he doesn't know how it's supposed to work. I do understand that. I know it can be complicated, and I know this is new for him. But I also believe that being new at something doesn't give you permission to shut down your partner every time they express a need. So, am I overthinking this, or is this as big of a red flag as it feels? Comment from NoPoet3982 that I think actually just hits this story on the head perfectly. It's really an eye-opener to me how many people think that their feelings have to be right. Like, instead of asking themselves if they're being reasonable, they should ask themselves, is this what I want in a relationship? If it's not, then move on. Nobody even has to be wrong, although this guy clearly is. And I think that's actually just a really good point for this, is that your feelings, even if irrational, are your feelings. They're important. It's how you feel on your day-to-day life. As long as you're not escalating things or making things worse or using your feelings as a way to justify you being cruel to another, there is nothing wrong with disliking how something makes you feel. And if you're not comfortable in a relationship that makes you feel a certain way, then yeah, as NoPoet says, if it's not, then move on. Now, but going back to the guy real quick and his kind of weird bullshit response here, just simply going for the most extreme nuclear option every time you're presented with even a slight little problem or having to make a difficult choice, like, let's see here, telling your daughter no. His response is to then just simply, okay, then you won't be allowed to see my daughter anymore. And it sounds like this isn't the first time that he's just simply had this kind of reaction anytime that OP has voiced any kind of discomfort. Dude has a lot of growing and learning to do, because this is immature and childish at best and abusive at worst. Cross posted from r/am I the asshole. Am I the asshole for thinking my wife crossed a huge line and that our marriage is essentially over by telling her friend what I said in couples therapy? Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I used ChatGPT to summarize some journaling I've been doing for this as well, if it looks like AI. That actually brings up a really interesting just kind of side question. How do you all feel about the use of AI to summarize a journaling app or something like that? Because this is still OP's story. It's just written by, ChatGPT. Anyways, my wife, female 38, and I, male 39, have been together for over 20 years, married over 15. We've been in couples therapy recently, partly because I've been feeling replaced by her close friendship with another woman, Jennifer. My wife has admitted she now processes things more with Jennifer than with me and regularly holds hands with her when they spend time together. In a recent therapy session, I told my wife, in front of the therapist, that I feel insecure about her friendship with Jennifer, that it feels like an emotional affair, and that I need a sanctuary in our marriage where certain vulnerable things stay just between us and aren't shared with Jennifer. I also mentioned how Jennifer is known as a big gossip in our town, which is also part of my request for privacy. I told my wife that I miss being her best friend. A couple weeks later, my wife admitted she told Jennifer what I said about her in that couples therapy session. She defended it, saying she has a right to share her own perspective, and her personal therapist told her she shouldn't feel guilty because what she experiences in our couples therapy is her intellectual property. What the fuck? To me, this destroyed the safe space of couples therapy and proved that there's no sanctuary in our marriage. It also reaffirms my fear that my wife is actively choosing her relationship with Jennifer over me. I told my wife that I don't know if we can recover from this. But my wife is sticking with her choice and seems to think I'm insecure, overreacting, and just trying to control what she says to whom. So, am I the asshole for thinking this was a major breach of trust and ethics and that my marriage is pretty much confirmed to be over at this point? So the reason why I included this one, despite it being written in AI, whether or not it was actually summarized journal entries or not, we have no idea. But this is still a very important concept, is that if you go to couples counseling with your partner to work out some issues, and they use what happens in couples counseling as gossip or drama fodder, that marriage is done. And I'm saying this as someone who has multiple times recommended that marriage counseling is a way to try and recover a damaged or falling apart relationship, as a last resort. But if you go into counseling and this happens, that marriage is done. It's one thing to talk to your therapist or perhaps even anonymously posting online for advice or more information, compared to what's happening here, where the subject matter of their couple's counseling is being fed the gossip and details. My guy can't even express what he's going through without it becoming fodder for his wife to gossip with Jennifer. That sucks, dude. And yeah, at this point in time, especially with how you're feeling, divorce is definitely an understandable option to take. Cross-posted from r/am I overreacting. Am I overreacting for piling all the dirty dishes in front of the TV? My 29 female husband, 33 male, and I have been married for 12 years and we have 3 kids in elementary school. He works... Hey, what? My 29 female husband, 33 male, and I have been married for 12 years. Hey gang, what's 29 minus 12? 17. What's 33 minus 12? 21. Don't like that. He works 2 to 11 p.m. from home. I work full-time outside the house as a nanny and housekeeper. I spent about 12 hours a day on my feet cleaning and taking care of kids between work and home, which is fine. Because of his hours, I do 90% of parenting alone. The trouble is that he never participated in keeping our home clean and running it before. Recently, I told him I was exhausted and needed help to pick up a household chore and be solely responsible for it to take some weight off me. He chose dishes. Since then, my life is brimming with dirty dishes. I have offered to teach him how to do them efficiently. I have tried to help him figure out when he can do them because he says he's too busy. I have done a load or two to help him get on top of it. But now, the standard in my home is that every single dish in my house is dirty, piled high in the sink and covering all the counter space. He does dishes about once every 10 days. I can't get my kitchen clean. I can't cook. Everything I need to cook with for our family is dirty. He feels like I'm making a big deal out of nothing. He says, just tell me what dishes you need clean for this recipe and I'll wash them. He literally said that about Thanksgiving dinner, that he didn't need to do all the dishes, just the ones I plan to use. I was up doing dishes and cooking until past midnight the day before Thanksgiving while he sat on the couch chatting with his mom. I have cried and pleaded and offered to teach and told him this is a really huge deal and nothing changes. He recently started a Twitch channel as a potential side hustle. He has like 10 followers and has been very consistent and put in a lot of effort to make his channel successful. He stays up most nights until 5 a.m. chilling or streaming or editing for his stream. And I can respect a side hustle. I think it's great. but he is refusing to do the one thing he said he would take care of in a house he never leaves. And he has several hours of uninterrupted time where he could just do 30 minutes of dishes a night and make my life so much easier. But instead, he says, I can't do dishes, I have to do X for my stream. I'm bone tired. I'm tired of feeling disrespected and ignored. My home and family are suffering because of his refusal to do the dishes regularly. So tonight, when he said he can't do any dishes at all because he had planned to stream, after I put the kids to bed, I piled all the dirty dishes in the living room in front of the TV for his stream. I know he will be big mad about it, but I don't feel like he's understanding how deeply disgusting and difficult it is to live in a house with only dirty dishes. He just doesn't go in the kitchen now because it's gross. I don't have that luxury. I have children to feed. Seems to me he should spend some quality time with his choices. Am I overreacting? OP gives an update in the comments. Update. First of all, I've never posted on Reddit before and I'm surprised at the amount of support and kindness. Really, thank you. I usually just read Am I the Assholes for fun, but I needed an outside perspective because I've been feeling like I'm going crazy. He called it a petty stunt, which it was. He did some dishes, moved everything else back in the kitchen to sit. He got the kids off to school this morning so I could get some rest, so that's something. To answer some questions and address some common things, we have had so many conversations about this issue. He says he will do better and he's sorry, but it hasn't changed. We have seen multiple marriage counselors over the years. No, we can't afford a dishwasher. If we could, I wouldn't be here in this situation. Sure, let's deal with the age issue. Oh, apparently I'm not the only one bringing this up. Anyone willing to let me borrow their time machine? I can regret getting married so young, but I can't exactly do anything about it. Even if we get divorced, I still get to keep the child bride title. I am considering sharing his Twitch channel. Again, thank you all for your thoughts and kindness. Another comment from OP, the kids all have a household chore that they keep up on. One does the bathroom, one does the living room, and one does the dining room. We fold and put away laundry together. I call it a laundry party. They all keep their rooms clean. He has tried to bribe them to do the dishes for him, and I've told him to say no. He expects them to do their chore. I expect him to do his. Great, so the kids are helping out more around the house than the husband is. Lovely. If he can't take 30 minutes before his stream just to fucking do some dishes, like, that, there would be no problem here. But he can't even take the time to do that for his family. And it's reached a point where he finds the kitchen to be gross himself. But rather than actually fucking do his job about it, instead he just avoids going into the kitchen, leaving his wife to deal with it. Oh, but don't worry, he's washing the dishes she needs at least. So there's that. We honestly can't be too harsh about it, because at least he's doing that much, right? Honestly, at this point in time, like, I think you need to draw a line in the sand that either he starts doing the fucking dishes or you're gonna leave. Like, seriously. If he can't do the dishes, what else is he unable to do? Because this is simple. This isn't like a major ask, like you're asking him to rewrite his entire daily schedule. Hey, after you eat the meal I cook for you, could you do the dishes before you stream? It's not that difficult, dude. Help your fucking wife around the house. Good God. Cross posted from r/advice. My fiance has been lying for months. I, 29 male, need real advice, please. So I met my now fiance, female 26, about 3 years ago through mutual friends of ours. She was very innocent, didn't drink much, didn't smoke, never done drugs. We had a really good relationship. Everything was going great. Hence why I asked her to marry me. We moved in together around the same time too. She has a daughter, 7, that lives with us too. Anyway, around 6 months ago, my fiance starts going out drinking with her friends more often, which is totally fine. I always offered to pick her up if she stuck too. However, it became more and more often. From once every 2 months to every single weekend without fail. Then she started staying out overnight. But she always told me where she is and was always back around 9 a.m. I started to worry because this just wasn't usual behavior for her. Even though she told me where she was, it was very unusual for her to act like this. So, cut forward to maybe 3 months after the first time she stayed out all night. She goes out with her friends and, again, stays out all night. This time, though, she didn't come home. In the morning, there was also no contact from her at all. So naturally, I contacted her friend, P, via phone, who she was out with. They said, we left her at a bar with her friend L, male 26, who I had never heard of before. This guy had never been mentioned. My fiancé was the type of girl to never be around another guy. I didn't know this guy's full name, so I couldn't contact him. Her friend, who I was on the phone with, also said, I have something else to tell you. Your fiancé has also been doing drugs for a while. We left her with the guy who she buys it off. I'm sorry. So, my head started spinning. I was worried about where she was, but also what she was doing. Again, this was a girl that would never ever be near another guy and never do drugs, so I was perplexed. About 12 afternoon, I had exhausted all of my options contacting all of her friends, family, to ask if they had seen her, all saying they had not. I started to get really worried. Maybe rashly, I contacted the police to report her missing. At this point, I was on the verge of tears as I thought she could be dead. It may have been irrational, but I was genuinely worried. Once I had officially reported her missing, I then had to contact her parents and tell them the same thing. She didn't come home. I cannot contact her, etc. They were wailing down the phone to be crying and screaming. Another 3 hours pass. Her mom constantly ringing for updates when my fiancé decides it's time to come home. She walked through the door, and I was relieved but also furious. I walked over to her, gave her a hug, but demanded to know where she had been. I felt like I deserved to know. She told me I stayed at P's house, the friend of hers I had spoke to hours before. I knew this wasn't true as I had a conversation with P, so I told my fiancé, I know you're lying. She said, I swear down on my daughter's life, that is the truth. I again said I know you are lying, as I have spoke to P, and she confirmed that she left you in the bar. I asked, who were you with when P left you? She said, I was alone. I promise, I was alone. Again, I said, I know this is a lie. You're with L. Who is he to you? She said, how do you know? I said, P told me. Anyway, I won't go into specifics of the whole conversation, but she continued to lie. She said she was with L for only 20 minutes. Then it was an hour. Then it was I don't know how long. She eventually told me that she stayed at her friend Laura's house. I said, is that the actual truth? She said, I promise that is the truth. So, being the silly man I am, I believed her. I also asked her about the drugs. She lied. Said she only had done them twice and she regretted it both times. I knew this wasn't true due to my conversation with Pia. She still, to this day, tells me it's just twice. But the fact her friends rang me and told me that she is always doing drugs leads me to believe that only doing them twice isn't true. Anyway, cut to 2 weeks ago. We were out with her friends. I had a few too many drinks and I asked her friends, where did my fiancé stay that night? I asked 3 of her friends. All 3 of them told me a different story. Not one of them told me the same story she told me. So I brought it up to my fiancé. Probably the wrong time to do it when I was drunk. I said, I asked all of your friends where you stayed that night. All of them told me a different version of events. What is the truth? One of her friends, R, said she stayed at her house. Another friend, T, said she stayed with L, the guy's house, and the third friend said she stayed in her mom's shed. So I questioned her on it. I said, are any of these stories true? She said yes, one of them is. I asked which one. She said she stayed in her mom's shed. Now personally, I said I don't believe her. I asked why she would need to lie about where she stayed if she stayed in her mom's shed. She said I didn't want to disappoint you. She said she thinks she was spiked and couldn't remember where she lived, but could remember her mom's address. This is the story she has stuck with. She stayed in her mom's shed. She had only done drugs twice, and she was only with L for a bit, but didn't stay at his house. So now, on Monday of this week, she said she's going out with her friends on Saturday. Naturally, I'm worried about this. After everything that has happened, I'm worried. But I said, no problems, go out, enjoy yourself. Inside, I don't really want her to go out, but I'm not here to control her and tell her she can't go out. I just asked her respectfully, after everything that has happened, if she could please come home after her night out. I feel like this isn't a big ask, as my thoughts are you would want to come home to your fiancé. She tried to tell me from her point of view that if she stays at her friend's house and tells me that, it isn't a big deal, as she's telling me where she is. I tried to explain to her, after everything, I have some trusting issues. She just laughed at me, laughed directly, in my face. She said she understands that I have trust issues, but said if she's having a good time with her friends, she doesn't want to come home just because I want her to be at home. She isn't going to ruin her night out because I want her home. I felt like a lot like my feelings are invalid because she wants to have fun with her friends and I would be getting in the way of that. I am not a controlling person. I don't have access to her phone. I don't know her code for it either. I have never looked through her phone, but since this has all happened, she's ultra protective of her phone, which she never was. She's always on it, texting and messaging 24/7. The phone does not leave her side. She even puts it under her pillow when she sleeps at night to keep it protected. Also, she deletes messages on her phone, often too. I've seen her do it. She says it's part of her OCD, which I understand, but she's constantly deleting messages. I'm not sure if I've just noticed it more because there's a lack of trust, but it feels like she's deleting messages constantly, multiple times a day. She will send a text, then immediately delete the text chain. It gives the impression that she's hiding something, even if that isn't her intention. In her words, she didn't lie about doing drugs, she evaded the truth. We had a conversation the day after she had done them, before I knew she was taking them. I said I would never do drugs again. I did them when I was a teenager. It doesn't appeal to me. And she said I would never do them either. Just the day before, though, she was doing them. So her thought on it is she didn't lie, as I didn't directly ask her if she's done them. She just evaded the truth. So my questions are, is it okay to not trust my fiancé? Is it normal for wanting her to come home after a night out? Not wanting her to lie about where she's been and who she's been with? Lastly, is it okay for feeling uncomfortable that she's constantly on her phone texting, messaging 24/7, and deleting all her messages? What should I do? My brain is telling me to leave the relationship as it is so toxic. The lying, the deception, and the clear lack of respect for my feelings. My heart is telling me to stay with her. In all honesty, I love her. I love her daughter too. I see her as my own daughter and protect her as if she was my own too. Any advice, guidance, anything at all, please help me. There's always a linchpin. First and foremost, the fact that she's doing all of this while there's a daughter at home is just unacceptable. For her just to disappear for an extended amount of time with no communication to the point where her parents, her friends, literally no one knew where she was. And then just couldn't even tell the truth about it. Lied, to the point where even her friends have conflicting stories as to what happened. They're all covering for her, but they don't even know what's going on. If you love her this much, and you love the daughter this much, then you need to apply some ground rules that she has to follow or you walk. First things first, she needs to get tested for drugs. Just that simple, an actual drug test, as well as potentially an STD test as well. Turning on location services or promptly being home at specific times, even if it cuts into her fun. She needs to be around for her daughter. She needs to be a responsible adult and actually come home at night, because she either does it with her current fiancé, or she has to do it because the babysitter isn't going to stay all night to watch the kid. And that brings me to the next point. If she's not willing to agree to any of these, then you should leave. This is just waiting to be night after night after night of headache, stress, and just so many questions that you'll never have answers to because she's proven herself to consistently lie. Because in the end, we don't know what the truth is. We don't know what actually happened that night because she won't be straightforward and honest. Hell, we don't even know if she heard one of her friend's stories and thought, okay, well, if it's L, he'll be mad at me. And he already talked with P, so I know for a fact that that friend's story won't check out. So, mom's shed it is. We have no idea what actually happened because she has proven herself to be unreliable and constantly lie, which is why things that actually have outside or third-party verification are needed. And if she's unwilling to even try to do this for your sake and for her daughter's sake, for God's sakes, then you need to walk. And if you do love that daughter like she's your own, then potentially try to get custody or something like that, because This is dangerous behavior. And there are so many red flags. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.